Hey guys, it's me again, Orc What Ifs, where we last left off. Let's see, checking. Where I last left off, Deku and them pretty much fought a Glavenus. They had a Gamoff, which was the actual name. They had the Tigrex, the Legiana, and all of them joining in to help take it out. And then I, just did a bunch of, filler for the last part. But I guess I'll skip to what Deku and them are up to now. So, this is pretty much it. Deku and them move deeper inland, you could say, where there's less cities and such, and more sparsed out towns, similar to the Monster Hunter ones, where they have groups of monster hunters to protect said towns. Because if any of you know, monster hunting, being a monster hunter, is actually really difficult. Some of the even lesser monsters, you could say, a weak ones you would call them. Yeah, those are pretty much hard jobs sometimes. And some of the ones that you'd probably consider weak or mid tier, maybe even, are considered incredible tasks to do. Let alone Elder Dragons. Taking down an Elder Dragon is only once in a generation can someone take down an Elder Dragon. Or a hunter can, with the ability and skills to take one down, is born. So, following that, this is what happens with Deku and them. They move further inland, trying to avoid those small towns, as they are pretty good at hiding out, as Deku is still being taught, pretty much normal stuff by the people. They aren't the best, so his education isn't the best either. Either. So, with Deku's side of the story, they're just hanging out in the jungles. Till one day they're like, alright, we gotta talk. It's like, what? It's like, we're running low on supplies. We can't keep on hunting like this. And we need more clothes. It's like, what happened to all our clothes? It's like, well, every time we transform, we tear them to shreds. And we have had to transform quite a lot. So, what are you saying for us to do? Well, there's three things we can do. Go into those small towns, start working. 2, we can stay out here, hunt monsters, and bring them back, and hope we aren't poaching. Thing 3. I headed into town and heard from some locals that there's gonna be some people using the river to transport some important stuff, like rare minerals, materials, and the like. You know? As it's like, you aren't suggesting that we rob it? Yes, I am. Listen, I know you, as he talks to, pretty much points at the Tigrex and Deku, saying, you don't like this because you want to be a hero and you just believe in human, as you would put it, being a decent human being. But the rest of us don't care about that. As this is the Legiana speaking it. Saying that this is probably the best thing that we're gonna have been able to do. I don't want to, as he states that it'd be difficult enough to conceal being a monster, but to just show up out of blue would be even weirder. Would just be even weirder, as he points it out. Legiana saying, you see my point? As the Gamoff was pretty neutral about it, but after hearing the excuse, he's like, some of us can work in town, some of the others, if you want to go rob the whatever they're using, that's fine by me. I ain't getting involved with your little shenanigans, as he would put it. As this Gamoff is an older guy. He isn't young, he's older. So, following that, I believe the Gamoff, whatever. As a Tigrex, or as, I'll just refer him to as Ty. I think that's a pretty good name. Come up with names for the monsters if you want. Like, I need one for the Legiana and the Gamoff. I've chosen Tai for the Tigrex, so I hope you guys like that name. But as they go on to explain that, what about Deku, who's going to stay here and watch him? As they say, well, he's a big kid, he could go into town with you. There's ought to be a few places willing to hire him on. As the Gamoff said, well, I guess, well, as he, looks at himself in a mirror, or something like that, reflection, I could possibly pose as his grandfather. It's like, you two look nothing alike. Well, look at it, my hair's turned all, he's has, almost pitch gray hair. As he talks about, his hair is almost completely gray, a few specks of other, black here and there. No, not black. Well, I would say brown, because, well, the Gamoff is brown. And Deku has his green hair, but it's similar in, how it's shaped, you could say, with the other guy. And they have somewhat of a similar facial structure. So I was like, alright, I guess that's gonna be the best we can do. You okay with this idea, Deku? He's like, yeah, I think I'll be fine. As it's like, good. So the rest of us got our ideas, as there's 7 of them in total, 7 or 8. 3 of them stay off the job, the other 5 do the job. The other 3 are working in town. They just hear as, when the Legion and such pulls off the job, it's immediately, heard in the small town. Somebody robbed that train as they've been there for a few months, as Deku is getting, a bit more socialization with the other kids, he does kind of stay away from them. But the Gamoff pretty much says, yeah, just, hey, as he, pretty much taps Deku on the shoulder, go on, I'll cover for you. As Deku has a nice little job at, a nice little shop. The Gamoff's there as well, as the Gamoff, well, Deku didn't really do much, he just stood around and was told he was hired, quote unquote, to sweep the floors and such. And with the Gamoff was stocking shelves and such. Tigrex, well, he was a bigger dude, so he was helping farming and such. They had that around. So that's what they primarily did, and they made a nice little bit of money from it. But as for the rest of the group, yeah, they destroyed that boat, and a lot of them didn't go directly after the people for a killing. Or at least that's what they tell them. But yeah, you see where this is going. One step in the direction. As the Legiana says that all the deaths were accidental. What's the big deal? Got all this stuff to sell. It's go to a different place for that. The Gamoff doesn't want that sort of attention being drawn to them, and Tai doesn't agree with it either. And Deku just keeps to himself since, he's a kid. They don't care about his opinion. Except for that one time, which actually kind of got Tai and the Gamoff's attention, as the Gamoff recognized that Deku was a bit smarter for a kid his age, or wiser, you would say. Leaving it at that. We follow the story, or Deku, the Gamoff, and Tai's, well, relationship, you could say. It's a grandfather, father, or brother, in Tai's case. Grandfather, brother relationship, you could say. Is how that little trio goes. While the Legiana and his and the rest of the group are trying to scrape a living, quote unquote. They're just pretty much robbing places and such. Deku and them thought it was just that one thing they did, but unbeknownst to them, they've been doing it quite a bit more. As when they actually skip a few months ahead, Deku's around 10 or 12 years old, between those ages. Skip to Deku, as Deku talks with Tai, and he talks with Tai about sort of not life lessons, but what it was Deku gives him his idea of what he wants to do, is that The nerrgegante's names have been sullied essentially by the past actions. When he talks about how he's learned through when he was like, he hasn't been able to learn about now, but since, well, before he was sent to the fighting pits, he talks about how he was able to get his hands on a couple of history books regarding the history of elder dragons specifically. As they go back to the first sightings of them, then he found the pages with the nerrgegante. As then he looked at history, and then found that the nerrgegantes were the good guys, that they were the ones saving the world when it was on the brink of collapse. But just because of a few bad apples, they were pretty much tossed aside in favor of other monsters. Like, he talks about how other monsters, like, as he would put some of the noble looking monsters, like they said Teostra looks like a noble lion. They said Kushala Deora, and so, like I said, I know a lot about, I only know quite a few of the monsters from Monster Hunter World, because that's the only Monster Hunter I have played. I've tried looking into more, and again, their names are weird. Really weird. Like, I think there was one called Ikigaris or something. They have weird names. I'm sorry again. But he goes on listing names of better looking monsters and such, saying that people started to like them more, started uplifting them as the heroic types, while the nerrgegantes, who were, don't get me wrong, they were intimidating as hell, as he would put it in less like that. It's like the nerrgegantes look more vicious and feral, as he would say it. That people looked at us or looked at our monster forms and think, oh, that must be a bad one, while they looked at Teostra and thought, he looks majestic, essentially. As Deku says, it was the Teostras that almost enslaved all of humanity. Saying that he doesn't want to sound childish, as the guy's like, you're a kid, Deku. You're supposed to be childish. It's just not fair that we were tossed, that I, as he would put it like that, was tossed to the side. Like that. As he looks down, sort of saddened, as a gamoff comes over saying, listen, kid, I know you understand that life isn't fair. You were dealt a bad hand. I know that more than anyone. For me, I never really had a problem. Kid, grew up over in, as I would say, he grew up somewhere colder, like really cold. As he said that's where he was most at home. He stayed in those really cold places, and he actually was able to make a decent living using his monster power, since a power of a monster hasn't been outlawed yet, as they're technically a separate species. Sure, they're not allowed to grow in size and go berserk, but if they use their abilities for a job, for instance, like a Brachydios, which is a monster that has a very explosive slime. So they say a Brachydios that uses his slime, or his or her slimes, or I'll just say its slime for the purpose of excavation and such, with blowing demolitions essentially, that's fine. But if it was just using it to make things go boom, then that's a no. How the gamoff used it is that he would pretty much be put in charge of herds. He took the job as pretty much a shepherd, and he kept herds of Apollos or something like that. They're smaller gamoffs. As he would put it, that was his job. He was in charge of keeping them safe, and he had a pretty decent living at it too. Stopped all kinds of monsters. As when he tells them take note of how his horns or his tusk and such, how big and how like they look like they've seen quite a bit of battle. And the same thing goes for his body, is that the gamoff is covered with hair, but over his body they can see like places where there's scars and such. He said he's had his fair share of fights, and he puts a hand on Deku's shoulder. He's like, "You've been dealt a bad hand, kid, like I said. But you know what you do? You're gonna get hit down probably more times than either of us here. So when you get hit down, get back up again and keep on going. That's all you can do. So why don't we keep... Because I like your idea, kid. We shouldn't keep on slapping labels on stuff. But they're gonna do it to you anyways because they feel like they have to. Because there has to be a reason to exclude you. But when it comes to this, don't listen to them. Fight with a passion that I know you got. As he like puts somewhat of a fist on Deku's heart, you're gonna be a lot stronger than the 7 of us. Hell, I think in the future you may actually be able to take on 7 of us at the same time. But keep that in your heart, kid, and remember, fight long, fight hard, fight till you drop. Keep that in your heart and you'll always succeed. You aren't here to survive, you're here to win. As he pats Deku on the shoulder, now come on, we got a hotel to get to, and you got schoolwork to do. He's like, don't think I forgot about that. He's like, oh, man, as the African guy's like, well, he's a good guy, you can tell. So let's get you on with your schoolwork. As the 2 individuals, like the African guy and the gamoff, or the Thai and the gamoff, they're both actually really smart, as they were saying. Like, the gamoff is more like a history man, and Thai is more like mathematics and stuff like that. They're pretty on like science and such. Like, they know the basics and blah blah blah, like standard procedure. They both help him with schoolwork and such, is essentially what they do. They both like sort of, as Deku talks about him wanting to like sort of keep like fight to like keep up his, as he would put it, his edge when it comes to fighting. As the Thai says, he wouldn't mind taking Deku out every once in a while. Like, to make sure Deku doesn't bite off more than he can chew. Like, maybe there's some... I know they have some smaller size crocs, but big enough for you to fight. They also got, like, packs of Jagras and such. So we should have plenty of things for you to fight around here. And we should check with the place to make sure we aren't poaching. Because if, well... as there is the guild in this. If the guild finds out you poach... that's your ass, and they're gonna tear in 2. It's like, really? It's like, oh yeah, they have no mercy for their hunters if they poach. What do you think they're gonna do to us? He's like, good point. He's like, alright, let's go check with the board. I'll go in by myself, because, you know, guns. I'll just say I have hunting experience. They won't have any record, it was just that I'm a monster. And he wouldn't mind putting up a hunt. As he goes in the next day and checks with them, as he's like, yes, we got well, it's no small deal, but from the sounds of it, you sound like you can handle yourself, so we got 3 problems you can solve for us, or just one of them. If you solve one of them, that's good. We got a massive pack of Jagras. We're talking about like 40 plus members. He's like, really? That's the biggest I've heard of. Oh, yeah, that's a problem. They're a massive pack. But as I said, they're a massive pack, and well, you know how bad they could be in a group. If it was like 10 of them, we'd send out one of our hunters. But like 30 or 40 of them, yeah, that's no deal we could take. But I know a monster like you can handle it. He says you're a Tigrex. He's like, yeah, that you should be strong enough to handle it. And well, we got a massive crocodile. It's like one of the ones that could go fight that ant, or one of the ones that could fight that Anjanath before it got killed. Like, yeah, weird thing that happened to him. But hey, bigger fish roll around all the time, right? Tired, mister? He's like, late at night last night. You know, monster blood and such. He's like, yeah, I heard that happens to some of you. And the final issue, well, this one may be more difficult. It's like, tell me what it is. Well, see here, as he like leans in, we got reports of a group of human monsters. They're causing a ruckus. Well, I know you probably wouldn't want to fight them, but listen here, it's not that they're human monsters, it's suspected they're human monsters, but they don't match any of the descriptions, they don't fight smart or anything. But they are a mixed bag, you could say. There's a Legiana, Great Gyros in one. There's another one, what was it called? Oh yeah, it's called Coral Pookie or something. It's a subspecies. They have quite a few members. They're kind of dangerous-ish. But if you want to take care of one of them, that wouldn't be a problem with us. Dead or alive works. Most likely alive, though. You know, trials and such. It's like, yeah. It's like, well, here you go, and come back when you feel it's done. As the gamoff actually just got done listening, like talking with the Legiana, as they said, they hit in our jackpot with another transport that was filled with cash and such. As the gamoff said, you said you're only doing one. It's like, it's too easy to pass up. Listen, we're gonna duck out of here soon. It's like, if you guys get your ass in the fire, you guys are in the frying pan right now. I think it's out of the frying pan into the fire. Yeah, you guys are in the frying pan right now. You guys are about to get your ass tossed in the fire. Don't bring me, Deku, or Tai into this. Understood? It's like, yeah, you got it, Gamoff. We won't do anything of the sort. It's like, good. As he hangs up, he's like, so, you got a mission for you and Deku? He's like, oh yeah, it's, well, there's a bit of difficulty with that one. We got a pack of 40 Jagras, and he's like, it's quite a lot, but it shouldn't be a problem for you and Deku. Or we could go after a giant croc. Like, yeah, no way you're taking Deku near that thing. Oh, he's like, yeah, I was apparently able to take on the Anjanath. It's like, oh, yeah, then you're definitely not taking him anywhere near that. Yeah, I know. We're gonna go after the Jagras. Should be nice and simple, and should give him like a nice plan on how to take on monsters that group up like that. In his current state, I'd say Deku may be able to take on like 20 of them, but 40, no. So we'll head over there, and I'll trim down the numbers to 30. It's like, only 30? Why not 20? He's like, well, Deku needs to improve, you know? He can't just fight what, like, the amount he can take on, or what we know he can take on. He's got to try to push past that a little. Lift, as you would say, lift more than he actually think he can. You right, Deku's like, you got it, Tai. As he, like, gets his stuff ready as they head out. As Tai lets Deku ride on his back, as he changes and runs off. As Tai's like, hold on, Deku, I'm gonna be going a bit fast. As he's like, sure thing, Tai. As they get to the location that the Jagras are expected to be at. As they arrive, he's like, alright, Deku, remember, I'll take out 10, you take out the rest. He's like, you got Tai. As Deku transforms and waits there, Tai lures him out as he like made it seem like as he walked over and attacked, or like allowed himself to be exposed, as then a bunch of them just coming rushing out of the woodwork. He pretty much chomps him down easily and then runs away as he leads him to Deku, as it's like, good luck, Deku. As in this time, Deku has like been growing his spikes, as he's got quite a few of them around. They're not as strong, they're not as big, and he certainly isn't as big as a full adult nerrgegante, nor is he the same size as Tai. But he can still put up a nice little fight. As he jumps forward, sort of using his tail and slamming it into them, takes his claws and slices straight through a few of them. Grabs as he bites down on one that was close to him. He uses his forehead as he as he smashes it down, getting a couple others. Then at the same time, he uses that like little bit of strength to fling a whole section of, or like an entire barrage of giant spikes that impales over a dozen of them. As Deku makes real quick work of this little horde, as Deku says, honestly, he could have actually done more. It's not over yet. What? He's like, you're missing 10. As it's like, where are they? As then they all jump on his back as they start tearing at it. As when Deku fling those his spikes, sort of broke off quite a few of them, and with the rest being sent forward as impalers, a bunch of them drop down and start biting on his back as he's sort of jumps around. A few of them go off, but most of them are persistent, as then he just jumps up, sort of runs, gets a running start and slams his back into the wall, crushing them. As the three trying to run away, Deku just takes, as he sort of gets smaller, gets in his second or third stage, and throws rips out one of his spikes, and then just pretty much throws it, hitting the last one. So then the other two trying to run away, Tai comes over and chomps him up. As Deku and Tai celebrate their victory, Tai tells Deku to get back in his monster form, as it's see, Deku, when it comes to this, you never get out of your monster form unless you are 100% sure you are by yourself. Because it could easily that, as then they hear a snap, and then as they look around, they hear a high-pitched, like a roar, as then it darts forward, coming at them. Tai's like, get down, Deku, as he is full transformation, as then he clashes with this creature with pitch black skin and red yellowish eyes, as it lets off a roar similar to a giant wildcat, a giant big wildcat, as it's very row, but deeper and more fierce. As from most of you can probably tell, this is a nerrgegante. It's very similar to the T-Rex in that their bodies and such are built similarly. Damn, I speaking. They're built similar. They have different fighting styles, of course, with the T-Rex being known for more brute strength, and the nerrgegante being more agile and going for quick attacks. As Tai's get out of here, Deku, I'll handle this. Go tell Gamoff that you had to return home without me. I have a cat to play with right now, as it lets off another roar as it comes crashing into the T-Rex, sort of using its special moves to try and cause bleeding. As the T-Rex, as Tai lets off a nice roar that sort of stuns it for a second as Deku runs off. Deku doesn't go to tell Gamoff, but he watches and makes sure Tai doesn't get hurt. As Tai's that kid's gotta stop worrying about me. Seems to forget. I fought crocodiles around the same size as you, Tiny! As he comes rushing in, as the nerrgegante is smaller than Tai, but it's more agile. That's where its advantage lies. As Tai rushes in, about to headbutt this creature, or sink his teeth into it. He starts to try and, as he is able to land the hit on it, he starts to thrash around like a dog shaking a chew toy, as he's trying to rip off chunks of it, or trying to rip out that chunk he was able to get his teeth into. It takes its tail as it flares it up and throws several of its feathers into his neck as he has to shake it off. His neck being actually really thick, he's able to it's bleeding, but it isn't oh no, they hit an artery. He forces this thing back, as like I said, Tai is much better than the nerrgegante. Forcing it back against a tree, he smashes his front arm into its face, as he sort of tries to grab onto it. Then he pretty much gets his other arm around the tail, as he grabs it there, and sort of throws it. As he tried to stand on his like back legs, as he's able to do it for a short period as he throws it, as it goes crashing into the side of a wall. With the crashing, and then a couple of like a giant tree branch comes and smashes right down on top of it. As he lets off his roar, the nerrgegante decides to limp away while it still has its life. As Deku says, "That was awesome, Tai," as he's like, "You'll be able to do that in the future in no time, kid. Maybe not the same as me, because, well, you ain't built like me, but you're gonna be much stronger than me. I know that much." So, as he and Deku go and return saying, as Tai says he completed the quest, as it's like, "Do you have proof?" He's like, "How was I supposed to bring you proof that I killed 40 Jagras?" It's like, yeah, that's kind of a dumb question. We'll have somebody go out there later. Also, there's a nerrgegante going about. Just wanted to say that. It's like, really? It's like, yeah, the guy attacked me out of nowhere. I didn't want to kill it, so I drove it off. Because I don't know if you guys have, like, if those are something that you guys are, that's on the list, you could say. It's like, well, if you had killed it in self-defense, then maybe it would have been okay, but that's a very long stretch. Like, there's been people killed for doing the same thing. So it's a good thing you drove it off instead of trying to kill it. So, you'll take your payment and go. It's like, yep, take my payment and go. As they give him a pretty decent amount. As then they would go back to the gamoff and tell them the tale. As he's like, well, that actually kind of reminds me. As he sort of laughs, saying that reminds him of the time he had to fight a berry-off by himself that tried to sneak up on his herd. As he's like, "What's a berry-off?" "And I'll tell you later. Go to bed, Deku, it's late." He's like, "Alright, gamoff." As he's like, "And Tai, you be more careful. That nerrgegante, if it was able to get the drop on you, could have killed you." Like, I know, gamoff. Like, get off my back. As it's like, "Hey, I'm essentially the granddad of this group. You all better listen to me and show some proper respect." "Alright, Grandpa." As he just says it jokingly, he's like, no more lip from you. Now get to bed." As it's like, "Yes, sir." As he goes up and, like, gets in bed. As Deku goes to bed thinking, "Man, this was awesome. Hope we could do it again tomorrow." As he falls asleep. Anyways, that's where I'm going to be ending this one off at. I hope you guys enjoy this. Hope you guys continue to enjoy this. I hope you guys have a nice day, nice night, nice life.